In the beginning there was the storm. 1987, mud, rocks and water devastated the canton of Uri. Transit traffic ground to a halt, and suddenly pollution levels in Uri sank below the permitted limits. The environmentally conscious citizens of this mountainous canton decided to make a stand against the environmental pollution generated by the traffic. Shortly after the disaster, they met with like-minded people from the cantons of Valais, Graubünden and Ticino and launched what became known as the Alpine Initiative. In May 1990, they submitted the petition with the 110,000 signatures they had collected to the Parliament in Bern. A vote on the Alpine Initiative proposals would have to be held.
The Alpine Initiative demanded that heavy goods transit traffic must be carried by rail. Although at the start of the 1990s, 80 to 90% of goods passing through Switzerland were transported by rail, a study had shown that without the Alpine Initiative, 12,000 trucks would be crossing the Swiss Alps by road every day by the year 2015. If the Alpine Initiative were to be accepted, this would mean only 4,500 trucks a day, only those trucks that were loaded or unloaded in Switzerland. The Alpine Initiative also demanded that the transfer of this traffic to the railways would have to be implemented within 10 years, and that there should be no further expansion of the transit road system in the Alpine region.
In Uri, where the people are most directly affected by the traffic, almost the entire population supported the Alpine Initiative, with a determination that did full credit to the emblem on Uri's flag, the bull. They were attempting to defy not only the rest of Switzerland, but Europe as well.
We deeply regret that the Federal Council and Parliament have passed up the opportunity to make it mandatory for heavy goods traffic, by which I mean European transit traffic, to be transported by rail. The mood of the people in Uri is not good at all at the moment. We know that if it's not made compulsory for heavy goods traffic to be transferred to the railways, that this traffic will remain on the motorway, as the motorway is still the cheapest and most flexible route.
And
the new rail link through the Alps, won't that ensure that the traffic goes by rail?
With the NEAT, there are no mandatory contractual conditions under the current requirements. The heavy goods traffic won't move over to rail of its own free will.
The Federal Council is of the opinion that the Alpine Initiative is no longer necessary because 90% of heavy goods transit traffic is already transported by rail.
It is in fact the case that in 1980 as much as 96% of the heavy goods traffic was transported by rail. But since then, by the start of the 1990s, this has fallen to some 83%. And in recent years, the move to the roads has speeded up. If it goes on like this, by the time the NEAT opens, we'll have around 50% going by rail, and all the rest will be going by road. I want to know how we're supposed to finance and make proper use of the NEAT when more and more of the traffic is moving onto the roads. Will it be the taxpayer who has to foot this bill at the end of the day?
The National Council and Council of States rejected the Alpine Initiative. Even the other Alpine cantons withheld their support. The Uri Landrat, Parliament, however, offered its backing and formulated a cantonal initiative that was identical in its content. But this too failed to meet with the approval of the Federal Parliament. The Euro politicians felt as though they had been taken for a ride. They became all the more determined in their support for the Alpine Initiative, even though they also knew that its acceptance would hardly make Switzerland's position in Brussels any easier. Doubly affected was Martin Führer, a member of the Uri government living in Schattdorf, between the railway and the motorway. He expressed his views in an interview before the vote. Federal Councillor Oggi says making the transfer of traffic onto the railways mandatory will contravene the terms of the transit agreement with the EU. Doesn't this bother the Uri government?
The initiative does not comply with the transit agreement, that's correct. But the transit agreement is a contract that's due to expire in 12 years' time, and we're of the opinion that the time will come for the compulsory transfer from road to rail to be discussed again.
Doesn't this make Switzerland's position in Europe all the more difficult?
No additional problems due to the Alpine Initiative will arise in the next 10 years at any rate. As for how the situation will look in the future, that's difficult to assess at the moment.
The Alpine Initiative met with the support of environmental groups. They were of the opinion that the initiative would receive a positive response from broad sections of the European population. And it would serve as a timely reminder to European politicians that they should not forget their fine words about moving heavy goods traffic off the roads. On February 20th, 1994, 51.9% of voters and 13 cantons voted in favour of the Alpine Initiative. A decisive contribution to the success of the initiative came from the president of the Uri cantonal government, the Landermann Hans-Rudi Stadler. He spoke with obvious delight to those attending the party. He belongs to the Swiss Christian Democrats. Many of his colleagues in this conservative party could not bring themselves to endorse this initiative publicly.
On the Sunday evening after the announcement of the result of the initiative, the people of Uri celebrated the victory to the full. The celebration in Uri was first and foremost a party for young people.
In my opinion, the big political debates were not the decisive factor in the success of the initiative. What was important was that people saw what was going on in front of them and thought about it and realized that something had to be changed. This is why Hans-Rudi Stadler is all the more pleased by the positive result.
The Alpine Initiative is one of the few popular initiatives that has been accepted at the ballot box, only the 12th to be passed since the right to a popular initiative was introduced in 1891. The concerns of the Alpine Initiative seem, however, to have persuaded the majority of all Swiss citizens.
Prominent national politicians also made the trip to Uri. Peter Bodenmann, president of the Social Democratic Party, was delighted to join the celebrations.
There are always two ways of looking at a situation. One is from the top looking down, i.e. the opinion of governments, bureaucrats and people in other influential positions. The other is the view of the people who are actually affected. I have the impression that all evening long, only the people from the top have been asked for their opinions. But here the opinion of the people at the bottom is crucial. I think that both in the Tyrol and in France, those directly affected by transit traffic will be encouraged by the result of the vote today to take action and to demand a change of course in transport policy for Europe. And this will have a positive influence on European politics.
Uri celebrated its victory till the early hours of the morning. The Landermann even took to the dance floor.